What's up, guys? So today we're going to be doing a product rule style derivative question. And this one's a little bit tricky because we've also got some kind of chain rule elements going on in here as well. So if you guys don't know the formula for the product rule, basically it involves taking the derivative of the two functions which you are taking the product of. And by that I mean the two functions that you're multiplying together. So the first thing that you want to do when you approach a product rule question is kind of define what two functions are being multiplied together. So in our case, it's going to be the square root of x plus 2 and then the 2x minus 1 squared. All right, so I'm just going to give a name to each of these. I'm going to call this one g of x and this one's h of x. But that's totally arbitrary. You can name them whatever you like. Now the formula for the product rule is the derivative of a product of two functions is going to be the derivative of the first function times the original version of the second function plus the original version of the first function times the derivative of the second function. All right, so what I like to do is I find each of these components separately first, and then we just kind of plug them all into this equation and kind of see if we can simplify from there. So we already know that g of x is the square root of x plus 2, and we know that h of x is 2x minus 1 squared. So let's find the derivative of each of these functions. So the derivative of g of x, well, you can write g of x as x plus 2 to the power of a half if you want to. And so if I use the power rule, I can say the derivative of g of x is going to be, I'll bring down the half in front here. So 1/2 times x plus 2. And then I subtract 1 from that exponent. So a half minus a half is negative a half. All right, so there's my derivative of g of x. Now, normally you would have to use the chain rule here and multiply by the derivative of what's under your square root. But in this case, the derivative of x plus 2 is just 1, and multiplying by 1 doesn't really do anything, so we're just not going to do that. All right, cool. So now we're going to do the derivative of h of x. So once again, using the power rule, I'm going to bring that 2 out front. So I'm going to get 2 times 2x minus 1. And then I've got to subtract 1 from the exponent. So 2 minus 1 is just 1. And so we're just going to have an exponent of 1, which we don't need to write. And then in this case, I do need to multiply by the derivative of that inside piece. So I'm going to multiply this by 2. Maybe a nicer way of writing that would be 4 times 2x minus 1. But there's also nothing stopping us from foiling that 4 into the bracket there. So we can rewrite that again as 8x minus 4, and that'll be as simplified as we can get it. Okay, cool. So now we have our derivative of g of x and our derivative of h of x. So we're going to use those two things and just kind of plug them all into that formula. So I've got the derivative of f is going to be g prime of x, so that's going to be our 1/2 x plus 2 to the power of negative a half times h of x, and h of x is 2x minus 1 squared. Now from here we're going to add g of x, which is the square root of x plus 2, and we're going to multiply that by the derivative of h of x, which was just 8x minus 4. All right, and so now what you usually want to do is see if there's any way you can simplify this. Now for this particular question, there's actually not a lot we can do to simplify it. Now in general, it's kind of in bad form to include negative exponents in your solutions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this on the denominator, because that's what a negative exponent does. If you have something like x to the power of negative 1 over 2, you can rewrite that as 1 over x to the power of 1 over 2. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I can rewrite this as f prime of x is equal to, this would turn into 2x minus 1 squared divided by 2 times x plus 2 to the power of a half. Now what happened there was this component here and this component here are what are going to remain on the numerator. And so we just had 2x minus 1 squared on our numerator. And then the 2 down here and the x plus 2 to the 1 over 2 are going to combine on the denominator. All right, and then I'm just going to add the rest of this stuff on. So I've got the square root of x plus 2 times 8x minus 4, and that's it.